So Hashimoto's disease is an autoimmune condition. Basically, it's an interplay between our genetic makeup and the environment around us. And our environment constitutes of like the food, the toxins, the stress, and all those things. And toxins play a major role in Hashimoto's disease because thyroid is like a sponge. Any kind of small amount of toxins your body get exposed to, it directly affects the thyroid and gets deposited over there and starts that damage process, which is happening in Hashimoto's.
Do you want to wake up feeling like you're stepping into who you're meant to be, into the best possible version of you? What if I told you that the key to your best life, health, and happiness are all around you? You just have to find what works for you. I'm Hope Pedraza, and I believe that there isn't just one way to live a healthy and meaningful life, and that all you need is a little inspiration to make changes that last from the inside out. Each week, I'll be sharing tangible tips and inspirational interviews to help you on your journey. These are the steps to take to improve your life and live with purpose. This is Hopeful and Wholesome. Hey y'all, welcome back to Hopeful and Wholesome. Today I have on the show Dr. Anshul Gupta. Dr. Gupta is best-selling author, speaker, researcher, and world expert in Hashimoto's disease. He educates people worldwide on reversing Hashimoto's, and I love this conversation with him because he brings the best of both worlds together, right? He's a certified medical physician, and he's also a functional medicine practitioner, and so he has the best of both worlds, right? And so that's how his approach to Hashimoto's makes him different. And he has his own experience, his own health journey that he's going to talk to us about. But in this episode, we're talking about this functional approach to Hashimoto's, and we're talking specifically about the mitochondrial thyroid connection and how your cells, the mitochondria in your cells, really hold the key to healing. A lot of really great research around this topic. And he really breaks it down for us, talking about toxins and how that can trigger Hashimoto's, heavy metals, toxicity, and how all this toxicity affects the mitochondria in our cells and is affecting our thyroid. Such a good conversation. Let's jump in.
All right, y'all, let's jump in. I'm here with Dr. Gupta, and we're talking about the thyroid today. And I like that, Dr. Gupta, I like that you have this medical doctor and functional doctor perspective. You have the best of both worlds. I'm excited to kind of see where the conversation goes. But thanks so much for joining us today.
Absolutely. It's really a pleasure being over here. You are doing amazing work of sharing great information with folks. So it's an honor to kind of share some light of Hashimoto's and thyroid and how people can get better from it.
Yes. I'm excited. Thank you so much. So I would love to, I really would like to start with your journey into the medical world, because again, I like that you kind of have the best of both worlds here. You know, as a medically Western medicine doctor, and then you kind of went to the functional world. Can you give us kind of the background of that and what brought you into kind of taking a more functional medicine route?
Absolutely. So actually my journey started with I'm a traditionally family medicine doctor. So after doing my residency, I was doing a very busy private work in my clinic. Just a couple of years into my private practice, I started having my own health struggles. I started gaining weight for no reason. I was very tired that during the day, I have to take a nap during my lunch hour just to function. Mm-hmm. At the end of the day, I was kind of feeling brain foggy that I cannot concentrate for long hours. And then plus on top of that, I was having this horrible stomach pain. This horrible stomach pain will just hit me randomly at any point of the time, during the day, during the night. I had no idea what was causing it. So being a physician, I thought maybe the stomach pain was causing because of the stress, maybe it's acidity. So let me start on some medications for it. So I started doing some PPIs to kind of control it. Nothing was helping. I tried kind of finding the dietary sources of it, but again, nothing was working out. I thought I'm not a smart physician. Let me take help with other specialists to help me out. Mm-hmm. So I went to specialist after specialist, GI specialist who did endoscopies, ultrasounds, blood work, everything was normal. Went to an allergy doctor to figure out it was allergies, food allergies, nothing came out. So after all of these testing, they added more medications just to throw random things at me just to see that it'll help me out. Mm-hmm. Nothing was working. I was only 32 years of age and I was not getting better. Mm-hmm. So do I have to live rest of my life, feeling this way? So then somebody introduced me to functional medicine, said that, well, people like you who do not get answers go to functional medicine. I was like, really? So I got kind of, get to know more about functional medicine, got certified into it, and then implemented that into my own life. I figured out what the root causes of my problems were, made a stepwise plan of fixing my lifestyle, getting to some supplements. And within 1 month, my life changed. Wow. My stomach pain went away within a month. Within 6 months, I was off all medications. I lost more than 40 pounds during the time.
Wow.
My brain fog went away and I had so much energy in my life that I even participated in a 5K rugged maniac.
Oh,
And
wow.
I was never an athletic person. So for me to do that at point of
Yeah.
time was a big deal.
Yeah. Yeah.
So that was a big aha moment for me that within a few months, my life completely transformed and with a few changes and when nothing was working. So I said, well, this is powerful stuff. I need to share with these folks to people who have not found any answers or they're looking for it.
Right.
That's where I actually got an opportunity to work at the Cleveland Clinic to do research into functional medicine model of care. Dr. Mark Hyman set up that, like academic center so that we can look into functional medicine and make protocols to help people out. That's where actually I kind of, attracted a lot of these middle-aged females who had very similar stories in mine. They all had weight issues. They were all fatigued. They were all tired. They were all brain foggy. And they were all following what the doctors wanted them to do, but still not getting better.
Right.
That prompted me to do research into more thyroid and Hashimoto's disease because they all had that common denominator of thyroid problems. So I found out, there were like reasons of Hashimoto's disease, like the root causes, nobody was paying attention to them. And a lot of research was present and nobody was able to combine all that research together and made it into a protocol to kind of help people with thyroid and Hashimoto. So that's what I did. I made a 3-step protocol, implemented it over there. Significant results were seen. Again, each and every person's, quality of life improved significantly. We saw improvement in the thyroid numbers. Their thyroid antibodies were going down. Their thyroid TSH numbers were getting better. So that's where actually prompted me to kind of write the book of thyroid disorders, get people to kind of know more why they're not feeling better and what they can do.
Right.
So that has been my journey over there.
Yeah, quite a journey. That's crazy that the changes you saw happened so quickly for you. That's crazy. So just for your personal story, what did you find were the major root causes for the issues that you were experiencing?
Again, the very important thing to remember over here is that people are looking for root cause, right? And you and me know it is never a root cause, not a singular thing, it's plural, root causes.
Right.
So for me, a few things that I noticed was that dairy was my problem. So that even though I was not allergic to dairy, but again, if I consume dairy for 2 or 3 days, then that will kind of flare up my symptoms. So it took me a while to figure that piece out. So dairy was a big issue. Second of all, definitely I was not handling stress very well. Being a physician, I thought I could just conquer everything, but it is a pretty stressful work. And definitely I included some stress reduction exercises in my daily routine that helped me a lot. Then I noticed my gut was inflamed and I had leaky gut issues. Nobody was paying attention to it. So I had to fix my leaky gut through some supplements.
Yeah.
And plus, I had fatty liver issues. So my liver was overburdened with toxins.
Right.
So I had to kind of work on a detox protocol to kind of help my liver to decongest and work properly.
Right.
So those are all my root causes that I identified during that journey.
Yeah, I find those are all pretty common, right? We see that so often with people with thyroid, even if it's not explicitly Hashimoto's, just like thyroid isms, right? So I would love for you to answer this just because you see that both worlds, the Western and the functional medicine, because leaky gut, I find with a lot of Western trained medical doctors is like, either I've heard some of them like think it's not even a thing, like it's not a real thing. Some of them just kind of brush it off like I just find like they minimize that so much. And I would say 90% of my clients have some level of like leaky gut going on. It's like I've seen people heal from it. You've healed from it. Like, what is it that makes the Western medical world so like weird about the leaky gut thing?
So the reason being is that in medical school, yet we are not being talked about leaky gut, right? So when you're not taught about anything in the medical school, you think, okay, that doesn't exist, right?
Right.
So the leaky gut is a very recent concept. But the interesting part is that we have research behind it. The research actually came from an academic center. They actually proved that, the leaky gut is a real thing. There are markers like zonulin, which increases when people who do have leaky gut issues. So we have a couple of research papers which kind of, first of all, kind of say that, okay, leaky gut is real. And second of all, association of leaky gut with several diseases, especially autoimmune disorders.
Right.
They have again proved it through, a couple of research studies. So I think, like if we do have a couple of research studies which say something is real, then it makes sense to kind of believe into it, especially if we do have a test to check for it also.
Right.
So I think the Western world or even the conventional doctors, because they don't learn it in the medical school, they're not yet kind of, on board with, okay,
Right.
well, if leaky gut is real. And
Right.
plus the problem is that the Western world or the conventionally trained doctors, the only way they can treat a person is through a medicine. So if they don't have a medicine to treat something, then even existence of that for them, it doesn't make any sense. So for leaky gut, there is no medicine that a pharmaceutical company has come out with. And that's the reason again, okay, so what, you have leaky gut, I cannot do anything to fix you. And that's the best way is to say that, okay, it is not real because, I don't have a medicine for it.
Right. Yeah, that makes total sense. It makes total sense, which we both know that you can't heal it. So we know that there's a protocol for that. But I do know that you talk a lot about the connection between mold toxicity and Hashimoto's. And I would love for you to talk a little bit about that, because I've been hearing, especially a lot in my world with functional diagnostic practitioners, a lot of people, just mold toxicity, talking about mold toxicity in general and how it leads to so many chronic diseases. But you talk about it specifically associated with Hashimoto's. So can you speak to that a little bit, that connection?
Absolutely. So Hashimoto's disease is an autoimmune condition. Basically, it's an interplay between our genetic makeup and the environment around us. Right. And our environment constitutes of like the food, the toxins, the stress, and all those things. And toxins play a major role in Hashimoto's disease because thyroid is like a sponge. Any kind of small amount of toxins your body get exposed to, it directly affects the thyroid and gets deposited over there and starts that damage process, which is happening in Hashimoto's. Now, the mold toxins actually very interesting because we have known mold toxins are a possible problem for a long time, but majority of that research is happening in livestock because it was seen that the livestock, when they were fed with those moldy grains and things, that's where they started showing various different symptoms and signs of systemic problem. And then ultimately, they came to know that, okay, well, the mold was the real reason for it because the grains and the food for them was not stored properly.
Right.
But nobody put that two and two together, that the mold toxins was affecting the livestock and those animals are very similar to the humans. So maybe the humans were getting affected. Just recently, some of the great functional doctors and other people actually sat together and they were seeing these people who were not getting better. And they realized mold toxins can affect thyroid and other problems too. So there are a couple of research studies which shows that people who have been exposed to mold toxins, especially from moldy buildings or moldy environment, their thyroid gets inflamed. Their thyroid numbers actually decreases. So their thyroid is not able to make enough thyroid hormone and it causes inflammation in the body. Right. Now, what mold does to our body is that it causes something called CIRS, which is CIRS, which is the Systemic Inflammatory Response Syndrome. What happens? Mold comes to our body and then it starts colonizing our body and then starts producing these mold toxins, which we call as mycotoxins. These mycotoxins hijacks our immune system. Very similar to what COVID did to our body is by hijacking our immune system and turning it against our own body. So that's what mold does, causes the immune system to turn it against our own body and starts doing this inflammation response. And then this inflammation response is happening everyday basis for sometimes days to weeks and years. And this systemic inflammatory response syndrome triggers Hashimoto's antibodies, and that ultimately starts destroying this thyroid gland. That's the reason, the mold toxins are very well linked for Hashimoto's disease. And then when that destruction happens, your thyroid is not able to produce enough thyroid hormone because your thyroid is inflamed. All the symptoms which are associated with Hashimoto's disease are happening because the thyroid is so much inflamed.
That makes total sense. Do you find that people that have the mold toxicity as a root cause, do they have other symptoms that aren't necessarily associated with Hashimoto's that show up as well?
Yeah, so there are a couple of symptoms which I see consistently people who are being infected with mold. So the first is the brain fog. These people, they just feel that the brain is on fire. That's the most common comment they will say, that we cannot remember things, or we cannot concentrate on things, or we sometimes we don't even remember the names, or we don't remember where we have put things, or constantly they have to make notes of each and everything because they might forget things. So those, like the brain fog symptoms, are very important. That, one of the major indicators of mold toxins. The second one is the tiredness or the fatigue. These are the people who are tired all the time. They're not like, don't have energy at all during the day, during the morning, during the night. They just feel tired. And the third one is that they're very, very sensitive to their environment. These are the people who will have hives on their body. These are the people, they have random rashes on their body. Doesn't matter what they eat or what they do, that these rashes will appear in their body.
Right.
So these are the three major indicators that I see people who are infected with mold. Obviously there are other symptoms which are Hashimoto's related, but these are the
Sure.
main ones for mold.
Yeah, that makes sense. So when the mold is, maybe the major root cause, do you find when you're doing like a protocol with these people, are you like eradicating the mold, the mycotoxins? Like, what is your protocol? Is it like, okay, we want to focus on the mold part first? Like how do you address that?
Yeah. So first of all, actually, it's very important to know what kind of mycotoxin that person is, because the protocol changes based on that.
Right.
Now, again, over here, if most people they go to the regular doctor asking that, well, check me for the mold. And unfortunately, they don't have a test for mold toxins. So only few companies, actually around the world make this mycotoxin test, which are actually checking for the mycotoxins in the system. And that's the urine test.
Right.
So again, you might have to work with a functional medicine or integrative medicine, like a person who is specialized into mold testing. So that's what you need to get and see. Because the problem is that there are several molds in the environment, and each and every mold make a different mycotoxin. And the same protocol will not work for all the mycotoxins. So depending on what mycotoxin and how high they are, the protocol changes. Now, again, when people hear about the mold toxins and they go online, they think, okay, well, let me just start with the detox process and that will take care of the mold.
Right.
And that is not a reality. That actually backfires in most people, because the detoxification are different levels of it. There are different phases of detox: phase 1, phase 2, and phase 3. And we have to optimize all of those phases, because the mold or mycotoxins are hiding in your body in different fatty layers or different places. And if you're just working on a detox that doesn't take care of the other phases of the detox, then the mold toxins come out in your system. And that's where people will get several die-off reactions and they'll feel worse. So you have to optimize all of the different phases of the detox. So typically when we are working with the mold, what we are trying to do is that the first phase is basically working on the detox, where we are kind of removing mold toxins from the system. But then the second phase is where we are actually working on the biofilms, because the mold also forms this protective covering around them, which is called biofilms. And most of the medicines or the supplements cannot reach them. So we have to actually work on the biofilms, remove the biofilms so that the body starts functioning. That's the second step. The third step is that surge that we are talking about. Even removing the mycotoxin in the mold doesn't guarantee that their inflammation markers are going to come down. So that's the third step. We have to work on reducing these inflammation markers, that chronic inflammation, which is destroying the thyroid gland. That's the third step. We have to work on them so that can get better. And the fourth step, because of this surge, the two things get destroyed is the thyroid and the mitochondria. And so we have to work on a rejuvenation process of rejuvenating the mitochondria and rejuvenating the thyroid, so both of them can work together again. Those are the 4 steps that needs to be taken care of in Hashimoto's disease when they have the mold mycotoxins.
Yeah. And I like that you said that, like just, starting a detox process isn't really going to do much, because I have even people who don't have, mycotoxins that come, they've tried to do that on their own. They've tried to do the detox thing. And then, like you said, it backfires. When you have someone where mold is the root cause of their Hashimoto's, are there things that, because like you were saying, like it just kind of lives there dormant, because after you've done all this stuff, like you were saying, we've done these first part of the protocol or whatever, and the inflammatory response could still exist. So when you have people that have the mold as the root cause and they have these mycotoxins, are there things that were kind of certain things can make like symptoms flare up? Like, are there certain things where the mold's still there, but it's kind of laying there, but then certain things make their symptoms flare? Do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, absolutely. So first of all, obviously re-exposure to mold. So if you're still living in the moldy environment, like that definitely can trigger, those symptoms worse. Or if you get exposed to mold again, like in a different moldy environment, that definitely will trigger these things. That's the first thing. The second thing is that, exposure to stress. because the adrenals and cortisol obviously feed the mold. So if you get exposed to like certain kinds of stresses, like whether physical or emotional or mental during that time, that will again flare up things. The third one is actually sugar or carbohydrates, because again, sugar and carbohydrates again feed the mold. And that's again the reason that a lot of people who are on a high sugar diet, or they are having like, these processed carbs,
Right.
that again feeds the mold and will
Right.
cause them to kind of have worsening symptoms during that
Right.
time.
Yeah, that makes
And
sense.
the last thing obviously is that a lot of these mold people also have something called histamine intolerances.
Right.
Sometimes that goes hand in hand. So histamine containing foods, like tomatoes and spinaches and fermented foods and things, can also kind of cause a flare up of the mold reaction too.
Yeah, that makes sense. You just answered my next question, because I was going to ask whether are there any other foods that we should be looking out for, but that makes total sense. So it's the higher histamine foods that are going to be causing the flare-ups. Yeah, that makes sense. So you mentioned kind of I don't know if you use the word rebuild, but like rebuilding the mitochondria. And I wanted to ask you about that too, because that's something we also haven't talked about in terms of like thyroid and Hashimoto's on the show. But I know the mitochondria are really sensitive to like our thyroid hormones, right? So you were saying that that's a whole part of your protocol, this 4-step program, that protocol you're talking about is rebuilding like the function of the mitochondria. So can you talk a little bit about that, and maybe like a brief, I want to say, because we all learned in like high school biology what mitochondria are, but maybe explain for a second like what mitochondria are and how your thyroid and the mitochondria kind of work together.
Absolutely. And that's the kind of biggest connection that a lot of people don't make together in Hashimoto's disease. Even a lot of functional doctors, kind of don't make that connection.
Yeah.
So mitochondria is like teeny tiny organelle, which are present in each and every cell of our body. The most common way we know about mitochondria is they are powerhouse of the cell. That's
Right.
where, we get the energy and the power in the body. But now we know mitochondria does much more than just producing energy. They are actually regulates our immunity in the body. They are responsible for aging processes in our body. They controls the metabolic machinery of our body. So whether we lose weight, whether we gain weight, all of those things are controlled by mitochondria. Now, the interesting fact is that there is a two-way connection between thyroid and mitochondria. So thyroid hormone is responsible for mitochondrial health, and mitochondria also impacts the thyroid gland. In fact, there was a research study done where actually they looked at people who had Hashimoto's disease, and after they died, they actually kind of opened the thyroid gland and looked at it under the microscope. And majority of the thyroid cells had dysfunctional mitochondria in Hashimoto's patients. So basically in Hashimoto's, their mitochondria is not working at all. And that's the reason, they're not feeling good.
Right.
And the interesting part is that majority of the symptoms which are associated in Hashimoto's are not thyroid symptoms. They are actually mitochondrial symptoms. So just imagine Hashimoto's people are feeling tired. That's because mitochondria is not working, not making energy. They have brain fog because again, mitochondria gives the brain the energy. They're not able to lose weight again because of the mitochondrial dysfunction. So people don't know that it actually the mitochondria is the core which is being destroyed in Hashimoto's disease, and that's the reason they have these symptoms. So we don't have to fix only the thyroid; we also have to fix the mitochondria.
Right.
Now, the biggest question is that how do we fix mitochondria, if it is already destroyed and not working? So in that aspect, obviously, we have supplements, and then obviously there are dietary things. Mitochondria loves fat, right? And most people are on the low-fat diet these days because obviously we've been told that the fat is bad for them.
Right.
In fact, the good fats is very, very important for each and every cell of the body, and mitochondria needs good fat to function. So that's where, including your nuts and seeds, your avocados, your olive oil, your coconut oil, all those are great, good fats that needs to be included in the diet so we can fuel the mitochondria. All these great green leafy and colorful vegetables, have phytonutrients in them. These phytonutrients and other vitamins and minerals like magnesium and B vitamins, again, are important to fuel the mitochondria. So again, through the diet, people can actually, again, help rejuvenate the mitochondria and work on them. Stress is a major killer of mitochondria, right? And we have seen that people who are stressed out age very quickly because their mitochondria are dying. So again, working on a de-stressing regimen of either meditation or deep breathing helps to rejuvenate the mitochondria. Then obviously we know there are certain supplements which can help to rejuvenate the mitochondria. Coenzyme Q10 is a great one which feeds the mitochondria. The L-carnitine is again a great supplement which is very important to kind of give the boost to the mitochondria that needs. Magnesium is again a great mineral which is needed actually by the mitochondria to function very well, and the B vitamins. And all the B vitamins, again support the mitochondrial health, and iron. Again, iron is one of those minerals which are not given the importance that it needs, especially in females, because a lot of females are low in iron. Because of their regular menstrual periods, they have low iron reserves in their body, and iron is needed for all the cytochromes which are present in the mitochondria. So these are all the supplements which definitely feeds the mitochondria. And then and the other supplement is NAD, which is getting really popular now these days. A lot of people are using for anti-aging benefits and obviously for energy purposes. And NAD is an important supplement that again works by actually working on your mitochondria.
Yeah, that's a good one. I actually just started taking NAD. I was like, let me see what this hubbub is about. So I just started taking it myself for those reasons, actually. Okay, those were great. Then you answered all the questions I was going to ask you after, like, what do we take to help our mitochondria? And I do find that even when we're talking about other things besides the thyroid and Hashimoto's, that the mitochondria, there's so much that like mitochondria dysfunction can cause. Like there's so many symptoms. Like you were saying, the symptoms of Hashimoto's are really about the mitochondria dysfunction. So I feel like that's a big missing piece that we're not really looking at. And, I don't think Western medicine is really, looking there, but like you said, a lot of functional practitioners too aren't really focusing on that. So I do think that's a big one that's overlooked a lot of times. And I love that you connected it to the Hashimoto's. So for people that are listening right now, what would you say are some of the first steps that you would recommend someone, outside like this 4-step protocol that you talked about that's extensive, what are some of the first steps someone can do to help support their thyroid, like all these pieces, the thyroid, the mitochondria, all these pieces that are playing a part in these symptoms that you're talking about?
I think I'm a big believer of lifestyle changes. I think everything starts with the basics. So I'm always believer, let's start with the basics before we jump into the big guns.
Right.
So at least start changing your lifestyle. What that includes is a diet, right? Clean up your diet, like, get the junk out, all the fast food, all the processed food, get them out from it. Get real food, start eating those veggies. Your grandmothers were absolutely right when they said that, eat your veggies. So absolutely, we need to eat our veggies. So get your veggies in, get good quality protein, which is needed, whether you're a vegan or a vegetarian or you're a meat eater, doesn't matter. Good quality protein is available in all different ways and fashions. Very important to do. Good quality fats, again, is very important, as I said. So change your diet, improve your diet. Very, very important. If you want to go a next step further, you can always eliminate these food sensitivities like, gluten, dairy. We know that those are, most people are sensitive to those. So again, you can eliminate those. So that's another thing, people can do that. So that's the first thing. Then again, second thing is that, as we talked about again, stress management, very important, right? Doesn't matter whether you feel stressed out or not. Right. Just give some time to your own self, whether it's through meditation, deep breathing, or cultivating a hobby or something, for your own self. Right. Just 10 to 15 minutes every day is very, very huge. Sleep, prioritize that sleep, right? Each and every one of us, like so busy, they have so much stuff we have to take care of. And the first thing that compromises is that sleep. We're only sleeping 6 hours or 5 hours. Oh, I can function in 6 hours. Well, you can function, but your body doesn't function. It's breaking down. So get that good quality sleep, 7 to 8 hours. We have good ways that you can track your sleep, to Oura Ring, to our watches, to our gadgets. Use them, that will give you an idea where your sleep is. And then body movement. Again, don't, just sit around all the time. Just get some body movement in your life. That is going to be very, very helpful. Now here, the problem is that most of the Hashimoto's or the thyroid patients will not tolerate high intensity training or excessive exercising.
Right.
So starting with some kind of body movement, walking, jogging, running, yoga, anything that works for you, but start with something that your body kind of, can get help with. Body moves, a lot of hormones moves around with that, and you're going to feel better.
Yeah.
These are good foundational steps. Doesn't matter whether you're mold, doesn't matter your mitochondria is not working, doesn't matter, like you have any other root cause. These foundational things will help with each and everything.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. Well, and I like the fact that you're talking about the stress, and even if you don't feel stressed, like the stress management part is key. Because I find a lot of times I'll ask people that we'll talk about, stress management, and they'll say like, oh, I don't feel like I'm stressed. Like I'm not a stressed out person. And I'm like, well, all of these things I'm looking at on your labs are saying otherwise. So I think a lot of times like we're just adapt, right? And our body adapts when it's really under stress, but then that's like our new normal. And we don't realize that we're under stress all the time. So I think the stress piece is a huge piece.
I agree with that. Like a lot of people have been told, fed this corporate language. Okay, well, stress is good, right? Like you
Right.
work, your performance improves if you're stressed out.
Right.
Well,
Right.
not on the everyday basis. Your body cannot be stressed out on everyday basis. Yes, acute stress is fine, but we are living in this world where each and everything is so demanding these days. And that puts stress, not maybe physically, but mentally, but
Mm-hmm.
socially, right?
Right.
Spiritually. Any kind of stress is stress for your
Right.
body.
Right. Right. Exactly. I mean, stress is stress. I always tell my clients, like, it doesn't matter. Your body doesn't know what type of stress it is. It just feels it as stress. So you're right. Totally agree. But I have one more question that I want to ask you that I like to finish off with. But before I ask you that, can you let everyone know the best place to find out about you? You have a book that I think would be really helpful for a lot of people listening to learn more about their thyroid and all the root causes. So can you share where everybody can learn more?
Absolutely. So the book is called Reversing Hashimoto's, which is available on Amazon. It has a Kindle version or a physical copy, so you can order from there. You can find me on different places, but the best place is actually we have a very active YouTube channel, and I'm sharing bite-sized information over there. So, and the handle is Anshul Gupta MD. So you can find us over there. A lot of the information about thyroid and Hashimoto's will be there. We have a great website again called anshulguptamd.com. We have a very active blog. We share research-based information over there. So you can find great information all those different places.
Perfect. Thank you so much. And of course, I will have links to all of that in the show notes. So y'all can check all that out and go check out Dr. Gupta's book, share it with a friend who needs to learn more about their thyroid. And the last question that I want to ask you that I like to ask everyone is, what do you think is the most important thing you can do to live with purpose?
I think it's love. Right? We just have to share this love that, with each other, because a lot of people, when they're suffering, or a lot of people who are not feeling good, they don't feel loved and they don't feel cared, especially by the medical systems, right? They have been refuted again and again. Okay, well, you are creating these symptoms. It's in your head. You cannot get better. Your numbers look fine. If you're not feeling good, we cannot do anything, right? So we have to share love with all those people. They are all suffering. So we have to share their suffering. We have to give them love. And that's the way every purpose can be solved. And that's what our goal is, to share information and share love with each and every person who's out there, who is looking for help. There is help out there. Keep looking, keep doing things. And if you're not yet better, the reason you're not better is basically you have not found that root cause and have not worked on it completely. So once you do that, you are going to get better. So I want to share this love with each and every person out there.
I love it. It's perfect. Thank you so much, Dr. Gupta. It's just so informative. So I'm excited to share this with everybody. Thank you so much for sharing your gift of wisdom and all the things that you're teaching us all.
Absolutely. It's really a pleasure being over here. Thank you so much for having me on the show.
Thanks for listening to Hopeful and Wholesome, y'all. If you found value in this week's episode, please subscribe on iTunes or wherever you listen to your podcast and leave a review to let me know what you thought. I'd love to know what you find useful in these episodes so I can know how to provide the most value I can to my listeners. And if you have topics you'd like to know more about, I'd love to hear those as well. So shoot me a message on Instagram, Facebook, or LinkedIn. It's @TheHopePedraza, or you can visit my website, hopefulandwholesome.com. Thanks, y'all.